Hey, everybody, I'm David Bloom here with NextTMT at the Stream TV show, which is working with us. We have among our assembled personages one young Bevin Fletcher, senior editor for Stream TV Insider. Good to have you, Bevin.
Thanks, David. Good.
We've got Eric Carson, famed descendant of both Kit Carson and Johnny Carson. He's often found on the beaches of Malibu in his bikini. Eric Carson with Mediagenix.
Yes, thank you.
And Rob Rose, Mr. Raw Travel, not in the Raw, which is disconcerting for me because he's got a sport coat on. I never see this guy with anything more than a T-shirt, usually because he's out there hacking away the underbrush. Anyway, we are counting down the last hours of the Stream TV show, the biggest and best yet, I suspect. It's 2,200 attendees. They are taking over this entire vast facility, the Gaylord Rockies Convention Center and Resort and Lazy River next year, and have to push it till August, which I think a lot of people heading to Cannes Lion next week are really happy about because now they can have a little break between two big shows. But I think it's been a success. It's been very interesting. I'd love to hear from each of you guys. Let's start with you, Eric, about what you've seen at the show. Obviously, the Fox-Roku deal, which opened the week, has been a major source of conversation.
Yeah.
Shockingly, lots of people have talked about artificial intelligence. Who knew that would be a topic?
Yeah.
But what else are you hearing with Mediagenix? Because you guys use AI. You may know who Fox and Roku are.
Shockingly enough, we do.
Yeah.
You know what I love about when you start the week off with such a big announcement of Fox is going to take over Roku is it gets people talking about not just the transaction, but what's involved in it and why did that happen. The reason connected TV and the OS and the content interaction is so critical is you get into something like content discovery. How do I engage users and keep them engaged on my platform? And we know that that's where Fox and Roku are going, and that's what so many other platforms and content owners are looking for. And that's what excites Mediagenix about coming to a show like this is we get to have conversations about content discovery and personalized search and how we bring semantic fingerprints of users and content together that we don't get to have at NAB or IBC or really any other trade show in our universe until we get to Stream TV.
You know, it's interesting you use the term semantic fingerprints, and somehow that feels wrong to me. We've got to workshop this one, brother. I'm just saying.
Emotional intent.
Oh, okay. Now that's getting closer. I like
Yeah.
that. That's got some weight to it, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I like this one better.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel? I mean,
Right.
semantic fingerprinting really just describes it. What we're after is
That feels like
content.
that feels like Shazam.
Yeah.
And really, we want to get more down to it. Like, what is your emotional reaction to this content, and what other things connect with you in that same way, right?
Yeah. And at this point in time, and in the location where I am. Right. So because in the morning, I'm in an emotionally different state than I am when I am done with work.
And it's called unconscious, Eric.
Yeah. Well, a different thing, right? 4 a.m. when you're up and you're ready to get in the gym. Like, I need something to really get me
This
going.
is why you're a super successful technology and tech and TV executive, and I am me. So anyway.
I love hearing this too, though, because I was in the ads track all day, and I feel like a through line there too is similar in terms of advertising coming to streaming and wanting to balance the user experience with the ad, but all about connecting the ad and the emotion to the user at the right time. And it depends when you serve the ad, who you're serving it to, and what mindset the viewer is in at that time.
Yeah, timing really matters here, and that's part of it. So when we talk about context, I mean, I think there's an appreciation for being able to put things in a context, understanding that context within your systems, and serving up ads and content that are appropriate for that time and where your headspace is. And I find that pretty interesting. Now, Rob, you on with us last week on the NextTMT Talks podcast, talking a little bit about you coming to this show for the first time as somebody who had a large library of content, your Raw Travel show that you've built out over 13 years, if I recall. And now it's like, what the heck do I do with this stuff? Because there's more opportunities than ever. And I guess I'm curious about for you as a newcomer, as a content creator, trying to figure out the next steps. What did you see? What did you hear here?
It changed over time. My emotional, what did you call it?
Context
Emotional
changed
intent,
over
yeah.
time. So the first day I was here, I was like, this was an immense waste of money. What am I doing here? Not unlike many times when I go to a destination And for whatever reason, I'm not connected immediately. I'm like, I'm wasting my time. And then it starts to grow on me. And I'm reminded of my trip to Istanbul, Turkey. I got ripped off by a taxi driver. I was jet lagged. I was tired. I couldn't find my Airbnb. They weren't answering the phone. I was like, I hate this place. 3 days later, I was in love with the place. And that's the way I
Yeah.
feel about this conference.
And then you went back and ripped off the taxi driver, right?
I always go back, try to get revenge on the taxi drivers but now I just take an Uber or a Lyft, and that's my revenge. But basically, yeah, this conference really turned about halfway through the first day for me personally. I had a couple of good meetings, and I was just one good meeting away. And then today was incredibly just a flurry of meetings, to the fact that I was like running over here because I'd met so many people. And you just need time, and you got to keep an open mind. And someone asked me, so what's the strategy now? And I'm like, it's not what the strategy is now. It's that now I have options that I didn't know that I had before. And we'll see which plays out. We'll have to do another interview later on. Say, which way did you go? What did you choose? But at least now I have options that I didn't have when I came here.
Well, now, Eric, I'm curious in terms of, you have a set of targets that you want to connect with in this context and build business with them. I'm curious, are there things that you saw here that you did not expect, stuff that you came across that was new to you because you've been in the business for a while?
Yeah. I think what was probably most interesting to me is not so much that everybody was talking about AI, but at the level that they were interested in having the conversation. So it wasn't an exploratory conversation. It was, I'm using it at this level. I've got a foundational model that describes this already. I want to use now and build a pool of content using this foundational understanding of my content. Or I want to use this to connect with my audience because I've already got structured data about my ratings and my audience levels. Can you help me make those connections? I don't think we were expecting that level of elevated conversation. It was very different than NAB, which NAB was much more of a, let's dip
Kind
our
of
toes in.
theoretical.
Only 60 years later.
That's
It's a more
that's
practical
months
application.
ago.
Exactly.
And everything here, I had a panel. I talked to a principal technologist for Amazon on the ad side and EVP for operations for LG Ads in one of the panels I did today. And I'll tell you that part of that conversation, all that conversation was about AI. It was focused on AI and real-time optimization and smarter targeting and what's the future of ad creative, and how AI is definitely supercharging all of that, but also how important you've got to have a human element in there to make sure when it generates all these different options that you still have human taste and understanding and an emotional context that
Yeah.
the human brings, and saying, yes, that, not that, help train the AI further. But the other thing, is very granular. I try to make sure that conversation was granular, but also entertaining. And also, though, how fast things are moving. So Nikhil, the technologist from Amazon, had written a kind of a crucial paper within the Amazon ranks, and they do these, they're very much a writing driven organization, and it helps evangelize within the organization various thinking. And he was talking about, this agent thing could be, this was 3 years ago, like this agent thing could be big, and they're like, oh, this is interesting. Okay. All right. So they're kind of talking about it. And all of a sudden it got really big. And he's like, I go back and look at what we did 3 years ago. And it's like they did it with buggy whips and it looks pretty good, but it's 3 years ago and it's way behind where we are now. And his whole point is all the stuff we're doing now, which is really cool and really amazing, is still the worst it's going to be.
Yeah.
Going forward. Now, Bevin, what else are you seeing and hearing? I mean, you were mostly tracking the ad stuff today. The show as a whole, you're kind of the queen who helped set up a lot of this. You did a lot of the programming, correct?
I mean, Lucia does most of the programming.
Lucia does
I
most.
was focused on the ad track pretty much for the programming.
Okay.
Yeah. Today I had a good fireside chat with Roku. That was, different topic. That was a focus on their self-serve ads manager platform, but that's all about tapping into the SMB market, which is not something to, sneeze at. There's a whole pool of advertisers that haven't advertised on TV before, or they spend on search and social, and now they're trying to attract them into CTV by making it easier. Like Roku has, I guess you can spend $500 minimum to do a campaign on their platform for that. And it also reduces barriers using AI sometimes for like add creative video assets, things that were barriers before to TV that now technology is helping, and these kind of simplified tools where I think they work with, who is it, Spaceback, and they take social assets and turn them into video campaigns for CTV. So, and they did one for Jennifer Aniston's, I think it's her hair care brand, Lovely.
Not her sweater.
Her sweater.
Disappointing.
Her sweater.
Talking about that damn thing since 1999, for God's sakes. And we just sell the damn sweater.
Does anyone want the sweater anymore?
Somebody does. And they want the haircut. It's fine. It's okay. We're all right with this. I had a Roku executive I did a fireside conversation with this morning too. And apparently, unlike you, the first thing I asked him was how he thought about Rupert Murdoch. And that was fun. And watching his PR person collapse in the front row was even better. But she's a very nice person. He had a very good response. He said, I just think this is a really good time in the life of both these companies to come together. And I think that's true, actually. Where they are, the things that they've gone through, it's a really interesting, but really a good time for them to take a next step, because it's easy to look at them and say, where would they go otherwise if they didn't do a deal like this? Both of them have some limits about where they could go by themselves. So I thought that was an interesting take. Now he's in charge of advanced development. Apparently he did admit he also does retrograde development, but not as much. And what was interesting though was just seeing, like he doesn't really care about all of that stuff. He's got a long list of things that they want to do. And his next thing is being able to have a Roku AI driven tool that can have conversations with you, that knows your context. And I said, so like saying it knows it's me. In this case, I was using actually the PR person's stated preference for binge watching old Law and Order episodes. I want to watch 10 hours of Law and Order videos, but it would know if I say I want to watch the usual, it would serve up 10 hours of Law and Order video, knowing that that's what my usual is. And it makes sure it wasn't the same 10 hours I'd watched 2 weeks ago. And that's really kind of interesting about what that could do. And then you wrap ads around that, right? And then all of a sudden it gets really pretty fascinating in terms of where you can go with things. Now, Rob, as you look at this, you've got a lot of things to ponder about where you go next. So talk to me a little bit about what you're thinking about in terms of what's on your list now.
To segue a little bit from AI, I've actually used AI a lot in this conference. So right before I go to a meeting, I'm like, tell me about this person and this company. How does it fit into the context of broad travel? Do they have a good reputation? I will ask that.
I think that's a really good thing to ask, by the way. Even at this show, I mean, in Hollywood, you need to be like doing it all the time, but like even here. So.
Yeah. And I find AI, and I've used it rudimentarily, if that's a word.
Rudimentarily, yes.
There we go. In planning my travels. And I find it's a little bit overly optimistic. Now, is that reflecting me? And I'm like, am I overly optimistic? I don't know, but it does paint a really rosy picture a lot of times. But I think
you might want to change the attitude. Seriously. But look, you do raw travel. It's like, oh, I'm going to go into the deepest back corners of the jungle. What could go wrong? Oh, nothing. You're going to be fine. But here's an agenda and an itinerary for you.
Yeah, it did. I did ask it, would it be safe, given my Ukraine advocacy, to go somewhere like Central Asia? Absolutely not, was its first answer. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm a small time player. I have an American passport, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, in that case, yeah. And I'm like, hey, man, what are you doing? You're just kind of reflecting my attitude here. But that aside, like I did use AI and I thought it was a good tool. It's like the assistant I never could afford to have, right? And like any intern or an assistant, you need to manage them and you need to manage the expectations and take the information with a grain of salt. One of the most impressive things for me, at least coming from NAB and then here, is the terminology. You guys don't know what I don't know and what the consumer doesn't know. And that is really hard to do, because I remember even back from my radio sales days, talking about CPMs and blah, blah, blah. And you're talking to someone who has what does CPM mean? Cost per thousand? Well, that doesn't even, what's an M? That's what it's CPM.
You clearly you've not been in Rome lately. That's all I'm going to say.
It's the Tennessee education system at the time, my friend. But just picking up the verbiage of what people are, the electronic programming grid. And I was pitching like my perfect scenario, what would I like to do in a dream scenario? And I'm like, I'd like to run a 24/7 fast channel that reflects exactly how I feel about travel, because that is not reflected in any of these channels. And it wouldn't just be a fast channel, it'd be video on demand. It would be an OTT digi network. It'd be everywhere. And you start with that, and then you work your expectations down, because I told someone, and he was like, well, you're going to need to be on Roku or the big guys first. And I'm like, yeah, that's the way I want to do it. He's like, yeah, and I'd like to go out with supermodels, and I'm like, okay.
You don't?
I mean, I would, but I mean, sometimes what you don't know, you discount things the more you know. And so sometimes that's why people, they call it, lucky, you get lucky at the beginning, because you don't know that you shouldn't be doing that. And so I think it's really important when you come somewhere like this, is that you go ahead and try to get that perfect scenario that you want, but understand that a dose of reality will come into play. And a lot of people slap me around a little bit with the dose of reality, and that's fine. Like I said, now I have other options.
Bevin, I'm curious, as you swim up back to the surface of consciousness after a very intense several days, where does the show go from here? I mean, you guys had a record turnout here. You're going to take over this entire vast space next year, but you have to do it in August, because that's the only time. This is one of the two biggest places, Kevin Gray told me, one of the two biggest places in Denver to actually have any kind of gathering, and it's only available in August. So, okay, I guess we're coming here in August.
Yeah, and the timing will work out better, I think, for people going.
Yeah, he'll be able to squeeze in more rosé time. So
That's the important
that we got to have priorities.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to Europe. We're going to Hong Kong in 27. So you coming?
If I'm invited. So I don't like to go places where I'm not completely welcome, which may be a longer list than I'd like to admit to. So Eric, where do you guys at Mediagenix, and you, besides Cannes Lions next week, what's next for you guys moving forward? What are you working on as you look forward to further enhancing your product and your relationships and the service you provide to your clients?
Yeah. I mean, next physical place for us is going to be SETEXPO in Brazil, which we are very excited about, with the launch of TV 3.0, which brings interactivity for the first time really into the television environment down there at very limited bandwidth. So having a broadcast infrastructure that can deliver a two-way interactive experience is great, right? And then how do we bring our personalization technology into that experience?
Next Gen TV is much bigger down there, right?
It's a much bigger thing, because they're launching with proper interactivity from the start. They didn't just make it an HD transition like we did with ATSC1. And that's not to say our transition didn't go great, because we had other pieces around. We had the bandwidth to deliver an interactive experience, via OTT apps and via smartphone apps. So it's just a different way. I'm excited to see what comes out of that. And Brazil is very excited. The government is throwing a lot of money and a lot of investment to make sure that works. I think from there, we're really focused on how we can help our customers bring full end-to-end experiences, whether it's fast and VOD together, whether it's cable and broadcast together, however they want to reach their audience, we want to be there to support them. So
great. I think that's probably a good place for us to wrap this up. I'm David Bloom with NextTMT here at the Stream TV show, held on behalf, working with our good partners at the Stream TV show at QuestX. I'm here with Bevin Fletcher, senior editor of Stream TV Insider and one of the architects of this very busy show. Just a little helper. You're not tall enough to be a big helper. Eric Carson, famed descendant and executive with Mediagenix, and Rob Rose, Mr. Raw Travel himself. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
thank you.